are more of the mindset of, oh, I'm not down working with AI. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Sweeping generalization, but just what I've experienced and witnessed as well. Um, but with that said, it is a great option, and I think very effective as well. You know, with the Teams integration that we've talked
Mhm.
about, if I remember right, it would help with things like if you're on a Teams meeting, it would
Mm,
take notes for you
yep.
um, and transcribe the whole thing, but then use that transcription to make the notes that you need to have and you need to see for your job. And one of the other big things with Outlook and Microsoft Copilot that excites me is that it would go through your email and say, this is what is due today. This is what it's due tomorrow. And it helps make your plans and just helps you stay on top of your job because of that.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. I think those two things are the biggest, most tangible and beneficial because you have a lot of people, and not really to make this about the focus of this episode, but you have a lot of people that are against using AI like this, right? They
Mhm.
think it's very simple and just unstructured, unnecessary. For example, I actually saw a Facebook post just the other day of someone who turned a song into something negative and just shared it to be like, this is how crazy and unnecessary this technology is. And I was like, it's a very like light level and unnecessary way to use this tech, right?
Yep.
There's so many greater things. But for it to be more integrated and simple, but integrated enough to where, hey, you know what? I'm using this to not just get everything I need out of this 30-minute group Teams meeting, if you will, or to sift through the 28 emails I got overnight to know what we're doing today and what I need to do. That's very effective stuff. I think it's very good, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what we're talking about today is not just that. We're talking about the advancement and next level of that will be coming early next year, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, is Microsoft Copilot Studio is not included. It's not free. It will be $30 a month.
Yep.
Um, and again, not terrible, but when you add all of these things together, which I wonder, and we can talk about this too, would it include a version of ChatGPT if you paid that?
Copilot is going off of the ChatGPT 4 language model. So technically, yes.
Okay,
But it's not it's if you pay for Copilot, right? You are not going to get access to OpenAI's ChatGPT, like
right.
specific ChatGPT thing. It would
Yes,
be, of course, Microsoft's tailored version of
sure.
the ChatGPT language model, like version 4 or whatever of the
Yeah,
language model.
which this is an interesting discussion that Dennison and I have had more so behind the scenes, but it's also been based on stuff of me doing research to see how we can grow our platform, and AI services are included in that.
Hmm.
It's interesting because, and I do think this is a separate discussion we can have further at another time. You hear a lot of people talk about, oh, Americans pay so much because they spend, or for monthly subscriptions because they spend money on Netflix and Disney Plus and all that kind of stuff. Right, right, right. Well, you can quickly rack up that level of subscription with AI services. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I do wonder, again, before we dive fuller into this topic, to let you guys know what this next level of Copilot would be, what all of the services are. It's going to be interesting. We think you're going to love it, but I do want to know, it seems like a lot of this stuff is overpriced, man, and wondering if it will come down in price. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question. I I think the language models that we have currently, yes, will come down in price. Um, but I don't think that um
Like newer premium services would come down because the thing about it is chat gpt $20 a month. What we're talking about here with the copilot plus, right? Is it
it's the Copilot. It's M365 Copilot, if I'm not mistaken, is the way
okay?
that
Yeah,
they're marketing it.
30 bucks. Yeah, $30. We've researched this as well. AI services available in the hosting service that we use for the podcast, 20
Hmm.
bucks a month. Um, Special stuff on Linktree where we link everything that you want to listen and watch to. Um, those AI services, I think, were $18 a month. And it's not
Hmm.
even just AI. With that, it integrates normal working stuff as well. But still, that racks up quick,
Hmm. It
and
sure
that's just
does.
for us with the podcast. If you look at other people that are trying to grow as, say, an influencer on social media, or even just grow their small business in any way, man, that can rack up quick for a lot of money coming out.
Yeah, it can. It can. And that's kind of where where consumers have to be a little bit more picky and a little bit more a little scared than what they could be. But I mean, the thing is also like these generative AI models are relatively um versatile. So you can use them in so many different manners than what you could do with, your regular like Netflix subscription or something similar to that, you know?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, 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 for sure. No, it's very much beneficial. I'm on board. You're also talking to a guy who pays for Amazon Prime, but splits that with his family. Um, and then you gets to stream through that. I do pay for Disney Plus. Um, I pay for YouTube TV, but I split that with multiple people too. So it's a lot more manageable
Yeah.
based on how I'm approaching it. Um, but yeah, a lot of other people have Netflix and they have these other ones that I don't use, like Hulu, for example, right?
Hmm.
Those type of things. And that stuff, and you're not able to split with other people necessarily. And that price racks up quick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know my family, we kind of pick and choose the services that we use, the streaming services that we use, and then and who pays what, and then that way we can all share the account. It's just um yeah, we can all share the account. It's just who pays for it is a little different. We kind of try to trade off.
Oh, sure. Sure, sure. I definitely get that. Um, you know, this is a side story and we'll jump into the topic here. Um, so I did a trial for YouTube Premium. You'll be really happy because
Hey, look at you.
Dennison's been promoting that for a while.
I
Uh,
have, man.
and I'm a fan
If
of
you
it.
don't
And
like ads, it's the
I
way to
know.
go. You
You know,
you'll never notice how many ads that YouTube has until you pay for premium.
right. You know what's kind of weird? So I've listened to a couple of vodcasts, if you will,
Mhm.
and it's weird because me having to go through it and then I listen for 6 minutes and then there's an ad and I'm like, okay, skip that ad. I can get back to it now. It made me more integrated in a weird way rather than just listening to it straight through with no ads trying to distract me. It's very weird.
That is
Yeah. Um, but with that said, I was getting very tired because YouTube has picked up the amount of ads they were putting in there and the amount of them that you can't skip. It was getting so annoying. So, anyway, I did a trial on it. And what's interesting about how they did it, it was X price, right?
Mhm.
But if you go to set it up on your iPhone, it would charge you an additional $6 more a month. if you did it through your iPhone. Yes.
Oh, I know why.
Why?
It's the Apple tax. It's because your Apple takes a certain percentage off of the subscription if it's done directly in the um store.
It's just so dumb, man. You know, and it's not the only thing they do it on either, and it's exorbitant. If you go into like if I were to try and boost a post that we made on our podcast TikTok page,
Mhm.
it would charge me the ad amount and then another like $3.50 just because I did it through Apple. If I did it on desktop, it wouldn't do that. It's so dumb, you know?
It's because it's an app. You're doing it through the app that all app transactions have to go through the Apple store or um the App Store. And
Yeah.
so when those transactions are going through, Apple's taking their little cut and boom.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's just weird. I don't know. I'm not it's not a little cut, that's the thing. You know what I mean?
No, I know.
It's not a 99-cent fee or a buck 99 fee. It's
It's
exemplary.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just not something I am a fan of and thankfully have found ways to work around. I hope you guys do too. But look, we're already flying through this episode. I say we just roll into the topic, man. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
let's
saying?
do it, man. Let's do it.
Let's get into it. I think yeah, so I'm seeing here, yeah, Microsoft Copilot Studio is what I'm seeing the title of this.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. It's Copilot Studio. That
Okay.
is correct.
So let's talk about the features that you'll get that aren't included already in Copilot, right?
Yeah, yeah, of
So
course.
why this would be beneficial. One thing it says here is low code customization tool. It allows users to customize Copilot from Microsoft 365, which is your whole Office suite you would have, and
Hmm.
build standalone copilots combining custom GPTs, generative AI plugins, and manual topics. So, to expound upon that, what does that mean? What does that look like? Because it's exciting. It sounds like you'd be able to create a chat GPT that would specific, or I'm sorry, some form of that would directly benefit you.
Yeah. No, I mean that's essentially it, right? It's you're creating one based off of your data set, right? It's similar to Google was announced this a while back where you essentially would create a, say you had a notes app, right? And you put have all your notes in there. And then they would integrate essentially like Bard, I think at the time is when they were announcing it, into that data set, right? Your notes, and then you could search and ask it anything about all of that. It's essentially what these GPTs are doing in Copilot is um creating. So if you have a data set of X, Y, and Z, you can now that is this GPT's training data.
Mm,
And so it's getting to learn, it's pulling in all this information. And now you can just chat with it and say, hey, um, going off of these trends, we'll use like some like if it's a data for like how much money the business is making over like a 5-year span or whatever like that.
sure.
You now have a GPT that you created based off of that data, and you can deploy it to then you can ask it and say, hey, um, what do I get? Or, what is your prediction in the next 5 years based off of the data set that we have or whatever like that? And
Sure.
it'll go through and say, like, oh, yeah, well, based off of this, we've got this, this, and this. These are the trends that would most likely do this and this and this. And you should move your business and this and this and this because it has all of that new data set, right? and so it can just regurgitate all that information. It takes away a lot of that. If you use ChatGPT a lot, or even Copilot in general,
Hmm.
there's a lot of times where you have to just inject a lot of data into it before it figures that out. Where this is, you can build it directly into that data set, um, and it figures all of that stuff for you. It takes away, it's less manual process, right? And you get to create a ton of these that are all specific. You could probably even do it off of like email chains or something similar to that.
Okay. Okay. So let's use yeah, which would expound upon that email stuff that we were talking about, right?
Mhm,
But let's use the podcast as an example, right? So let's say, for example, that I had this on this laptop, right?
mhm.
It creates a custom GPT that each week would stay up to date with, let's say, AI or related type of topics, and then would give us each week those topics to choose from, and then write the title and the episode description for us. Is that a thing or an example of something that people would use this technology for their own, geared toward them, obviously?
So, I'll say this, currently in Copilot Studios, current iteration, it's more for corporations, right? So, this would be more enterprise. I think even if you wanted to try to get access to Copilot Studio currently in its current form, you have to have a work account, right? A work Microsoft account. So essentially, this is mainly going to be for your for your work stuff, right? A more enterprise version of it. Now, that being said, OpenAI launched something called GPTs, which is essentially the same concept as Copilot Studio, but it's more customer facing. And so, in that scenario, yes, you could create a GPT that's based on that data set and it will do all of the things that you want it to do, or at
Gotcha.
least you can ask it to do all those things because now it has that information to do that. You can say,
Okay.
hey, it's the next time for us to do another episode and this is what we want to talk about. What should, what's generate something to do, generate what we should talk about, and um bullet points on how we should do it or whatever like that, and it would be like,
ChatGPT can
okay,
do that
cool.
for me? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's good to know.
that is what the cool power of this um is,
Mhm.
and why it's so impressive, right? Especially, of course, as I said before, a lot of this is kind of piggybacking off of what OpenAI is already doing, especially since Microsoft has a sizable investment into them. It makes a lot of sense that they're going to be able to utilize a lot of their stuff automatically into Microsoft's own stuff. Um, but yeah, that's kind of one of the biggest things that this affords people and affords enterprises. Um,
Okay.
I think right now Microsoft is going to focus on the enterprise side, but I wouldn't be surprised that this moves over to the consumer side soon.
Sure. So definitely more business related stuff, right?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's take a look here then. Yeah, about more of this kind of stuff. So I'll go through these again, these advanced features. Um, yeah, we'll come to that in just a second. But some of the benefits and applications that were mentioned about this,
Hmm.
improves your efficiency, it aids in making informed decisions, work related, of course, and all that kind of stuff. Again, I think it kind of ties back to something I was mentioning as well, but just being able to sift through a large amount of details, whether it's in a Teams meeting or, maybe you work at a place where you get dozens of emails every couple of hours, right?
Hmm.
and to be able to sift through that information, and help you make informed decisions that you need based off of, well, 2 weeks ago you did this, and here's where we're at now, and you're being asked for this, blah blah blah. Um, let's see, personalized experiences, like we've mentioned, streamlining workflows and automating tasks.
Mhm.
Um, so role specific customization can be tailored for specific organizational roles like IT support or sales teams with capabilities like collaborative commenting and graphical multi. Um, what would that look like for you, in your opinion? I guess is what I'm trying to say. If it were um, like IT support, for example,
Mhm.
um, yeah, what would those specific organizational roles be able to like? How would this benefit that? I think that's up
Um,
determined. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It sounds like that's kind of an open-ended answer, really.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean,
Yeah.
like I can see this. I can see this as something that you could use for service desk stuff, right?
Mm,
How this could help for efficiency is, say you inject or you create a Copilot based off of the data of the tickets that you get, right? The And you can ask it and say, okay, based off of the tickets that we have, what is the most common ticket that we have, or whatever like that? And how
mhm,
long does it take for this issue to get resolved? So, like, what's the most common issue, and how long does it take to resolve? And it'll just churn that out. And then you can ask it, okay, so what are some things for us to make this more efficient? And at that point, right, it can just say, okay, well, we could do this, this, and this. And then you could probably even make it go even further by creating another Copilot bot that is also tied to the ticketing system. But you can now use that as a first level of defense when it comes to customers, to the customer facing, right? So instead of being able to chat to a person, they can chat to a chatbot and say like, "Hey, bloop, here's an article, or here is a fix that was used in ticket X, Y, and Z that had this type of um resolution. Use this to, fix your issue," or whatever like that. Um, so, there's a lot that can be done there. You could also use it in more of an asset management capacity when it comes to IT. Saying, "Hey, we've got this many units. What is our burn rate that we're seeing in, this SKU of product," or whatever like that? Like, how fast does it go out? Are we getting these assets back? All that good stuff. So I can see it helping workflows. It's just I think it's the willingness of people giving it access to that data, right?
yeah, which I don't know, maybe that's something you can expound upon too, because I do want your opinion.
Mhm.
Um, but what really are the ways that, say, an average person, say maybe even a less tech-oriented person, right? Um, Take somebody who doesn't have a background knowledge of AI like I do, who's
Mhm.
in marketing, for
Yep.
example, or it doesn't even have to be that specific, but just something at that level.
Yep.
What would how would Copilot Studio benefit kind of the average computer worker, if you will?
Mhm.
Because I mean, we've
Uh,
touched on this a little bit, but I just think diving into it a little bit more might help.
no, no, I get that. Let's see. If I was an average user to use Copilot, to build an AI off of Copilot, I
Sure.
could see it very much a good way to integrate it into, since it is going to eventually be integrated into the O365 suite. Of course, you can have it there, but I think one of the best ways is easily, if you're a big note taker, right? In all of your meetings and all of the things that you learn, you could then train it off of, say, like a OneNote, right? You have all your information in that OneNote. You could create a Copilot Studio or a Copilot GPT deal that is just on your notes. And then you can say, hey, I'm getting ready for a presentation. Can you help me write a presentation based off of the notes that I have here? And it
Gotcha.
just pops that out. You can even say, hey, looking at my calendar, I have these presentations. Can you go ahead and start the process of writing out a presentation or creating a presentation for me for each of these meetings?
Yeah.
Right. And then
Absolutely.
you, as that person, can just run into that meeting having all your stuff ready to go for you.
Sure. I think that's a great couple of examples because, one thing that I have done with ChatGPT is used that kind of a feature for, any way that would benefit me, really.
Mhm.
But the thing about it is, especially with recent updates and just their preferences and all that, it can only really stay in touch with all of that information dating even back to the beginning of the thread that you're on, just in case you go back to that thread but reset and have to log in and log out. It doesn't maintain all of the data, and so to have Microsoft integrate this in a way where it would stay up to date and maintain all of that data from the second you implement it, those are great points, man. Just
Mhm.
scheduling, approaching this project this way, um, even help writing it, communication, all that kind of stuff. Those are great examples. I think this is really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what's so
So,
exciting about this.
well, it is right because the idea is it would be a direct integration into improving your productivity. Yes,
Correct.
which is great. And I think I wanted to
Mm.
mention this as a side as well.
Mhm.
Do you think that this, albeit Microsoft freaked out and thought ChatGPT was taking over for a second, and they shut down everything. Do you think it's the development of Copilot Studio that was their concern or that caused them to have concerns while they were building it out?
Mm, yeah, I could see that.
Because
I
I
mean,
mean, for this news to come out just a week later, it's interesting, you know?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can see that because um if you think about it, right? And we shouldn't be too surprised that they've created this type of possibility, this integration, this um system, right? The Copilot Studio. It's not all that surprising because we talked about this, it's been months now at this point. Where ChatGPT, Chat G gosh darn, ChatGPT 4, already showed some very interesting behaviors, right? Where one of them was the scenario that we talked about, which was, um, they gave ChatGPT 4 a task to, um, get into a website and buy whatever. And
Right, right. I
and that
vaguely,
web sorry?
I vaguely remember this. Yes,
Yeah. And so, like, say that website had a CAPTCHA, or not a CAPTCHA, but, yeah, no, a reCAPTCHA, deal, which, says, like, "Are you a human?" Right? And ChatGPT 4 understood, "Well, I wouldn't be able to do this, but let me get an actual person to do this." Right? Um
but it made a bot, didn't it? Isn't that how?
Correct.
Yeah.
It made a bot to, um it made a bot to start the process of, um, being able to fill out this reCAPTCHA deal.
Yes,
So
that's right.
that so even it just being able to do that kind of was a hint that this now is possible, right? Copilot
Mhm.
Studio that's based off of whatever. And even some of the projects that we've seen that have been based off of the APIs of ChatGPT have been pretty interesting, right? I think we also talked about it's been months now too, which was like AutoGPT, which was more of an open source project based off of ChatGPT that allowed it to self-prompt, right? So
Mhm.
we kind of already saw some of the capabilities there, but in that particular scenario, they did it to where it's like, "I want to order this type of pizza. I want you to." They gave the AI at the time that Auto GPT, they gave it the task of ordering this person a pepperoni pizza or something similar to
Oh,
that,
that's right.
right? And so
Yes.
what it did was what it first understood, okay, so here are the things that you need to do to order a pizza. And then it said, well, I can't do that because I'm a person or I'm not a person or whatever like that. So
Right. Yeah.
when I can't speak. So what it did was it said, well, okay, how do I first let's create a bot that will order this pizza. And then also let's create a bot that can speak because we're going to do it over the phone because that
Mm.
will, bypass X, Y, and Z. And so it creates that AI now has a voice and it calls the restaurant, right? It calls the pizza restaurant and says, "Hey, I want to order a pepperoni pizza." And that person is like, "Okay, cool." And then they bam, filled it out. And then they track it and then they say, "Hey, your pizza's ready to go." Right? So
Yeah.
even in those forms we kind of already saw that power that GPT already has. And so
Right.
this is now just kind of adding to the um to that fire.
Which is interesting because in case people don't remember this, Google had their own version of that for since 2017, if I remember right.
Mhm.
But it was specifically built with that in mind. Whereas, ChatGPT has been built with dozens and dozens and dozens of things in mind and was
Mhm.
able to do that. You know, that's a great
Mhm.
point. A great thing to remember too, because I understand those type of concerns that people have before they move forward with this technology of how that would work. But I will say too, what we've seen is a lot harsher crackdown on by OpenAI on ChatGPT to keep it more and more in check,
Yeah. Yep.
which has been good for them, and I also partly government pushed as well, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, so yeah, it's interesting to watch how this will expand as Microsoft implements more and more of Copilot Studio, and really what kind of uses we could see that weren't broadcast or marketed and might not even be allowed. It'll be interesting to see how
Yeah.
it really will. Um, so I wanted to say, or I wanted to ask,
Mhm.
uh, well, I kind of lost my question I had written down, to be honest. Um, no, I think, well, no, the reason is because you were kind of already answering it, a lot of it. Yeah, I guess really my biggest thing is, do you think really two things? What would be the big features that you're excited for personally?
Mm. Mhm.
And do you see this being uptaken by people? Do you see people using this? You know what I mean?
Um, yes, I can see this. I think it'll be a slower adoption than it was with regular old ChatGPT. Only reason why I say that is because there's an extra layer there. Um that's harder for people to grasp. That can be harder for people to grasp. Not saying that it's, super duper easy or super duper hard. I just think that it could be a small barrier there for some people, for some
Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah. And, as far as that, what are the features that you're looking forward to the most? Have you mentioned
Um,
these?
Yeah, no. Um, I'm trying to think what would be a feature that I mean, I'm really big on the studio, the Copilot studio. I think that'll be really good. Also, just a full integration of Outlook with Copilot, Outlook
Sure.
as well as with Windows. I'm not on Windows 11, so I don't get a chance to kind of do that. But I think that would be really, really helpful. But yeah, I think Outlook would probably be my biggest one, just because I get a ton of emails, and
Yeah.
so if I could have an AI that would go through, if I could have Copilot go through those emails really quickly and say like, "Hey, this, and this," and I'm getting like, you know, bullet points, that'd be really nice.
I completely agree. I think for me, and this is as somebody who used to work in the news. In case you're a newer viewer, you probably haven't heard us talk about that for the past 2 years or so. Um, but I got a lot of emails while I was working there. You know what's interesting about that is based on the experience I had. I bet this is taken up last, if at all, in the news industry. This technology.
Mm,
Um, so many people, the pride of being a journalist is overprotected a lot of times because you
mhm,
don't want anything to take away from what it is you do, even if it's AI or computer assisting you. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So it's a common uh, concern that I hear a lot. With that said, it would be extremely beneficial when you're someone like a producer, like I was, where you have to have help with, oh, this is coming in, and here's how we could add it to the newscast. Those type of thing.
mhm.
And there's so much possibility you could make of that. Here's how we would make a 20-second anchor read. Here's why it would make a good case to put a reporter on this. Those type of things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I know it's a specific example, but the reason I say this is because I would completely agree with you, even in my current job now, which is not news related at all, is more marketing. But just having this AI that would assess um, and help you plan out your days,
Mhm.
that's extremely, and even at a deeper level than what we already talked about, I think that's extremely exciting.
Oh, yeah.
And, and I would say too, yeah, I think I would take it up. Um, I see the reaction to it not being as great as what they would hope for,
Mhm,
but that's because of the experience that I've had professionally, which comes from what I was just saying. And I know too, with a lot of current jobs,
mhm.
they ban so many um, services, technology software services, because this exposition can't have access to that while they're doing their thing, right?
Yeah.
But you could, but rather than making that available, they just ban it for the whole organization, right? Like I've seen those kinds of things. It just makes me interested to see how that will play out. But with all that said, being that it is Microsoft, it will be picked up. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so we talked about this too, the fact that it would be $30 a month. Um, and it makes me wonder if they're going to have, and I bet they will because they're Microsoft, business plans for that, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's why, Studio currently in its current form is a business only venture.
Sure. Because they're allowing the businesses to pay for several people to use it rather than, you have to go in and buy it personally and put it on your work credit card or what have you, those
Yeah,
type of things. Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I do raise those concerns, not because I have them. I'm very much excited for this technology and just to continue to learn. And you did a great job helping lay this out as well, but just learn and understand what those services could be and benefit. each and every worker. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Really, if you look at this, and I just want to say this, and I'll ask you if you have any additional thoughts as well.
Mhm.
But you see this, and this is what people should be excited about when it comes to artificial intelligence. It's not what people get so concerned about of, oh, it's going to steal my job. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and it is a concern given whatever given the specific industry that we might be talking about. I get that.
Mhm.
But this type of integration is what people should be excited about when it comes for AI, or when it comes to AI, and how they would benefit us to be more productive, less stressed, you know.
Yeah. No, exactly. Um, and I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that we really want in general with these new AIs and as they continue to evolve and grow.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. Yeah, that is something that you hope to see more and more. It does make me wonder. Unfortunately, with ever since the Industrial Revolution in this country, it kind of makes me wonder if they're just going to ask you to do more work because you are being more productive,
Yeah,
or if,
yeah.
or if it opens up the door to more PTO or even 4-day work weeks. You know,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I will say, um, America is probably one of the few countries where we are so obsessed with like we have just a high and a very efficient workforce, and every other a lot of other countries around the world just do not have that.
right? That's their concern anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so it
but
does. Or sorry, go ahead.
well, I mean, you look at countries in Europe that give a whole summer off. You know,
Yeah,
but they
that's
still
true.
do good.
Yeah. Yep.
They d Yeah, they still do enough, economically that they need to do to be successful countries, first world countries, you know?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
it's all perspective, it's all alignment, you know? I'm not saying by any means that, people who do plumbing could take 3 months off, you know, I mean, we wouldn't
Yeah.
want that. That would hurt us a lot,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
But, yeah, I think situationally, I would be a proponent for, 4-day work weeks, depending on what that looks like, you know,
Yeah,
or
I
even
would
just
be too.
yeah, or even just shorten work days. You know what I mean? If you can get all of your work done efficiently, effectively, and at a higher quality than you ever could before, it's kind of like, man, why not get her done in six hours rather than 8, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not saying I do that. I'm just saying, if it were institutionally supported, that'd be awesome.
No,
Um,
of course. No, I'm not we're not saying that at all, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So look, I think we had a great discussion on this. I'm glad we dove into it. We had a lot to dive through, and I think we did a great job. I'm always glad that when I have the questions, Denison can always answer. I very much appreciate it. So,
try my best.
no, dude, you do a great job. We did not, however, remind you guys the 3 best ways to support this show. And boy, number 1, leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. You may be thinking, but John, I'm just checking out this podcast. Great. Leave us a rating and review. It is very quick, is very easy, and it helps get us in front of more potential listeners. It also helps us know what we're doing great and even what we can improve upon. But it really does help us continue to grow as well. It's very quick, very easy. Number 2, follow us on Facebook. Oh, there's 2. Oh my gosh, oddly specific examples here. I did not expect any of that. No, what a flex, by the way. Number 2, jump on our live stream with us every week. If you're listening on the audio, you'll hear these episodes go live on Mondays. But on Friday, or I'm sorry, on Thursday nights, we go live and you get to jump in with us in real time, Facebook and YouTube. The last couple weeks have been late in the evening. Um,
Mhm.
and we have holidays coming up, so we will have to change schedules a little bit, but for the most part it is evening time that we go live on Facebook and on YouTube. every Thursday, and you get to jump in the comments with us and interact with us in real time, which is what we want and very much what we hope for. So please do that. Um, and even if you watch the rebroadcast, jump in the comments. We want to know your thoughts on everything.
Mhm.
Uh, and then number three. Oh my goodness. Dang, what in the world? Guess who doesn't need a Christmas gift, man? No, I'm playing. But with that said, um, jump in on our shop because it's linked wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. If you want to support us monetarily, because it does cost for us to put out, produce, and host the show.
Mhm.
Um, it helps us for you to get some really good, clean merch, and we want you to have it. We upgraded our shop. It's over on Etsy right now. We think you'll love it. So please check it out. And we can't wait to hear what you think about it and see what you buy. So
Mhm.
please check all that out. We do have a we'll catch up with you next time shirt that is available. It's clean and it's very, very affordable. You'd be kind of silly not to buy one, you know? Like,
Mhm.
what? So that's the best I can give. With that said, I think we had a great discussion on this. I think we had a great episode. And thank you guys so much for listening. And thank you for watching. It is almost Thanksgiving time. We're going to jump on early, but we will still have everything that you need for the normal routine. So stick with us, subscribe, follow us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll catch up with you next week. Very cool. It's always clean, bro.